The story begins long before the world we know today ever took shape, before towers rose from steel and before nations were carved into maps. It begins in a land where mountains breathed mist at dawn, where rivers cut through the earth like veins of life, where the earliest echoes of a civilization stirred in the silence of prehistory. This is China, a place where myth and memory blur into one vast, unbroken timeline. And tonight, we step into that timeline. Not as observers from the outside, but as witnesses walking beside the people who shaped it. Imagine standing on the banks of the Yellow River thousands of years ago. The wind carries the scent of wild grass and wet earth. Primitive huts made from wood and straw cluster along the river's bend. Inside them, families gather around flickering fires, sharing stories of spirits and ancestors. And in this world of harsh winters and unpredictable floods, a small group of early settlers attempt something that had never been done in this region. They plant seeds and tame the land. This moment is where everything begins. Agriculture is the heartbeat of the first villages, and as seasons pass, the people learn to store grain, to carve tools from stone, to shape pottery decorated with swirling patterns. Their hands are rough from work, their eyes determined, their movements purposeful. Every gesture hints at the beginning of a civilization that will one day dominate half the world. Time moves quietly across centuries. Small tribal communities merge and clash, growing stronger after each struggle. And slowly, a culture defined by ritual, music, farming, and ancestor reverence begins to take root. The people believe that the spirits of their forefathers watch over them, guiding their choices. It is this belief that shapes their moral world long before rulers sit upon thrones. The legend of the 3 sovereigns and 5 emperors emerges from this dawn of civilization. Their stories are passed from one generation to the next, spoken softly beside nighttime fires. These tales speak of culture bringers, wise, powerful, mythical figures who teach humanity how to heal, how to build, how to govern. Whether these figures truly existed is unknown, but in the minds of the people, they are real. They offer order in a world still caught between nature and survival. The story continues as we shift slowly into the age of the Xia, China's first dynasty. The land is dotted with walled settlements. Bronze tools begin to appear. Farmers walk along terraced fields carved into hillsides. And at the center of this world stands an early ruler whose name echoes across time, Yu the Great. Known for his battle against the legendary floods, Yu is remembered as a leader who placed the safety of his people above all else. He travels from village to village, studying the way water moves, carving channels and building dams. His work saves lives, and in return, the people give him their loyalty. With the Xia comes a new idea, that power can be passed from parent to child. A dynasty is born. Whether the Xia truly existed as written remains debated, but within the imagination of the people, they form the bedrock of China's story. Eventually the Xia fade, and the Shang rise. Bronze glimmers across the plains as artisans craft elaborate vessels and weapons. The clanging of metal rings through workshops as workers pour molten bronze into carved molds. Powerful chariots begin to roll across open fields, pulled by teams of horses. Walls of early cities rise high, made from packed earth and covered in defensive towers. In the palace at the center of a Shang city, we see scribes bending over turtle shells and ox bones. They carve early characters onto the surface, questions meant for the ancestors. When the bones are heated, they crack. Priests study the cracks as messages from the spirit world. These oracle bones contain the earliest known Chinese writing, and in each carved stroke we see the beginnings of a written culture that will endure for thousands of years. Inside these halls, rituals are performed with bronze vessels heavy as stone. Drums echo with deep, solemn beats. The king presides as both ruler and high priest, believing that his power flows from the ancestors themselves, but the Shang are not alone. To the west rises another tribe, led by chieftains who watch the Shang with both admiration and caution. They are the Zhou, a people shaped by discipline, family honor, and an unshakable belief in the will of heaven. Under the guidance of their leaders, they unite, assembling a coalition of tribes, warriors, and small states who share one dream, to overthrow the Shang and bring a new order to the world. The final battle between the Shang and the Zhou unfolds on a plain where horses scream, bronze weapons clash, and armies collide in a storm of dust and fury. As the Shang king falls and fires consume his palace, the mandate of heaven is born, a philosophy claiming that rulers earn the right to rule through virtue, and lose it through corruption. This idea will shape China's political destiny for over 3,000 years. After victory, the Zhou establish a kingdom built on ritual, harmony, and stability. They divide their land among trusted nobles, creating a structure that will one day splinter into countless states. For now, however, the Zhou world is peaceful. Scholars debate ideas in quiet courtyards. Farmers cultivate wheat and millet in carefully organized fields. Artisans weave silk, shaping patterns of dragons and clouds. Families celebrate seasonal festivals with music, wine, and lively dances under torchlight. The Zhou capital becomes a center of culture, philosophy, and learning, but centuries pass, and as often happens in the cycles of history, the once loyal nobles grow powerful, proud, and restless. They begin to ignore royal commands, each building their own courts, armies, and ambitions. The Zhou king becomes a figurehead, and the land fractures into states that no longer obey a single ruler. This marks the beginning of the Spring and Autumn period, an age of both conflict and immense intellectual flowering. States compete for territory and alliances. Borders shift like sand in the wind. Yet in this age of uncertainty, some of the greatest minds in human history emerge. In one small state lives a man named Confucius. He walks from town to town, seeking rulers who will adopt his teachings. He speaks of benevolence, righteousness, filial piety, and the moral duties of rulers. His presence is modest, his voice calm, his clothing simple. Yet his ideas will outlive empires, wars, and dynasties, shaping China's soul for millennia. Elsewhere, other thinkers rise. Laozi speaks of harmony with the Tao, Mozi argues for universal love, and legalist minds propose strict laws to maintain order. These philosophical debates ripple across the land, shaping generations far beyond their time, but while ideas flourish, war intensifies. The Spring and Autumn period transforms into the Warring States era, a brutal, unforgiving struggle where 7 powerful states battle for dominance. Armies swell to unprecedented size. Soldiers march across plains clad in newer, stronger armor. Crossbows appear, changing the nature of warfare. Strategies grow more complex, and generals learn to think like chess masters, moving troops with precision and cunning. Among these rising states, one stands apart, Qin. Located in the rugged western lands, Qin soldiers train with strict discipline. Their rulers adopt legalism, enforcing order with iron laws. And at the heart of this transformation stands a rising young leader, a boy whose ambition burns like a relentless flame. His name is Zheng, the man the world will one day call Qin Shi Huang, the first emperor of China. From a young age his face reveals a fierce determination. His eyes are sharp, calculating, and unyielding. His advisors describe him as someone who sees the world not as it is, but as it should be, unified, disciplined, and ruled under one power. He grows up in an environment of danger, intrigue, and betrayal. Enemies hide in the shadows of his court. Assassins strike in the night. Yet he survives them all, growing stronger with every threat. As he ascends the throne, Qin armies march across the land with unstoppable force. Steel weapons gleam beneath the sun. Soldiers shout war cries that echo across valleys. State after state falls, unable to withstand Qin's fierce military and iron administration. One by one, rivals bow to the inevitability of Qin's rule. In the year 221 BCE, Zheng stands atop a raised platform. Thousands kneel before him. Drums thunder. The air hums with anticipation. And with a deep breath, he declares himself the first emperor of China. In this moment, the dream of unification becomes reality. He standardizes weights, measures, and currency. He orders roads to be built across the empire, linking distant regions. He creates one written script so all people can communicate as one. And he commands the building of massive defensive walls across the northern frontier, connected to form the early Great Wall, yet strength comes at a price. His rule is strict, uncompromising. Books are burned. Scholars are punished. Dissent is crushed. The people feel both awe and fear toward their emperor. He reshapes China with the precision of a sculptor, but his methods leave scars. Near the end of his life, he obsesses over immortality. He travels across his empire seeking elixirs and secrets of eternal life. His face grows weary, his voice grows hoarse, yet his ambition never fades. When he finally dies, his body is carried back to Qin under secrecy. His tomb, surrounded by the silent terracotta army, becomes one of the greatest archaeological discoveries in human history. With his death, Qin collapses under the weight of rebellion, giving rise to a new dynasty, the Han. But the legacy of the first emperor endures, setting the foundation for the China that will continue to evolve across centuries. The Han dynasty rises from the ashes of chaos, a phoenix stretching its wings over a land scarred by rebellion, conquest, and the memory of Qin's iron grip. Liu Bang, a man of humble origins, steps into history. His face, round and unassuming, hides a cunning mind capable of balancing ambition with pragmatism. He listens to advisors, navigates rivalries, and wins the loyalty of soldiers through acts of fairness and strategic brilliance. By tempering strength with wisdom, he transforms a fractured empire into one that thrives for centuries. Under the Han, the empire expands beyond imagination. Cavalry units patrol distant frontiers, protecting the northern borders from the relentless threat of the Xiongnu. Silk and spices flow along the new roads, weaving the fabric of what will become the Silk Road, linking China to Central Asia, Persia, and beyond. Caravans travel for months across deserts and mountains, while merchants exchange goods, ideas, and inventions. Paper, iron tools, and silk thread become commodities not just of commerce, but of cultural influence. Inside the imperial palace, officials debate policy while scribes meticulously copy texts. Astronomers map the stars, predicting celestial events. Scholars compile histories, creating records that will last millennia. Families in distant villages reap the benefits of irrigation systems and stable grain stores. Life, though still harsh by modern standards, flourishes in ways previously unimaginable, yet the Han dynasty, like all empires, faces internal tension. Ambitious ministers clash with eunuchs who wield influence behind the throne. Peasant revolts erupt in the countryside. Corruption festers in the bureaucracy. And through it all, the emperor remains a symbol, a figure whose mandate to rule, granted by heaven, must be maintained or risk losing legitimacy. The cycles of unity and disunity begin to take shape, a rhythm repeated throughout Chinese history. As the Western Han falls and the Eastern Han emerges, a new culture of learning blooms. Confucian ideals dominate the courts, shaping the moral compass of the state. Philosophy, law, and governance intertwine, creating a society where order is valued above chaos, and the lessons of ancestors guide the choices of rulers and citizens alike. But as centuries pass, the centralized power weakens. Warlords rise in the provinces. Ambitious generals seize territory. The dynasty fractures, and the country splits into three kingdoms, Wei, Shu, and Wu. These states are locked in endless battles, their leaders, Cao Cao, Liu Bei, Sun Quan, becoming legends in their own lifetimes. Generals ride across vast plains, swords raised, armies clashing with thunderous fury. Cities burn, and villages flee in the wake of marching troops. It is a time of chaos, yet out of this turmoil emerge stories of loyalty, strategy, and heroism that will echo in literature and memory for centuries. Amid this strife, culture thrives. Poets and scholars capture the essence of human experience, chronicling love, loss, and courage. Calligraphy reaches new heights, and the arts flourish despite war. The tension between the sword and the pen becomes a defining feature of Chinese civilization. Time marches onward, bringing the Sui and Tang dynasties. Roads are built. Canals link rivers. The capital of Chang'an becomes a cosmopolitan hub, attracting traders, scholars, and envoys from distant lands. During the Tang, China experiences a golden age. Art, poetry, and science reach heights previously unseen. Astronomers chart the heavens, inventors create new technologies, and cities hum with life. The Tang army secures borders, while diplomats navigate relationships with Central Asia, India, and the distant courts of Persia. The empire is rich not only in resources but in knowledge, ambition, and vision, but even in this era of splendor, shadows lurk. Factional rivalries emerge at court. Peasant uprisings flare across provinces. And yet, the cultural achievements of this time leave an indelible mark: porcelain, poetry, sculpture, and paintings that will define China's identity for generations. The Song dynasty rises after the Tang, bringing innovation in governance, commerce, and technology. Paper money is introduced. Gunpowder experiments begin. Printing presses multiply texts. Scholars debate philosophy and science. Cities expand, markets thrive, and trade reaches unprecedented scales. Life becomes more interconnected, more sophisticated, yet also more complex. While the Song struggles against northern invaders, their society demonstrates resilience, creativity, and adaptability. The seeds of modernity are sown even amid external threats. Then comes the Mongol conquest. Genghis Khan's descendants sweep across the steppe, battering the Great Wall, capturing cities, and imposing an empire unlike any China had known. The Yuan dynasty emerges, ruled by Kublai Khan, bridging Mongol nomadic traditions with the administrative sophistication of Chinese governance. The emperor rides high, his presence imposing. Cities bustle with a mixture of local and foreign influences. Trade flourishes across Asia, connecting China with Europe and the Middle East. Yet beneath the surface, tension simmers, native Chinese resent foreign rule, and rebellions ripple through the provinces, foreshadowing the eventual rise of the Ming. The Ming dynasty restores native rule and creates a new vision for China. The Forbidden City rises, a vast palace complex symbolizing absolute power. Walls, gates, and courtyards stretch across the heart of Beijing. The emperor sits upon a throne, surrounded by officials, eunuchs, and generals, while artisans craft exquisite porcelains and scholars compile encyclopedias. The navy sails outward, led by Admiral Zheng He, exploring distant seas, exchanging gifts, and projecting the glory of China across the Indian Ocean. Yet even as the Ming flourish, challenges persist. Corruption, famine, and border threats remind the court that power is fragile, and the people are both the foundation and the limit of imperial authority. As the centuries progress, the Qing dynasty rises, blending Manchu rule with Chinese tradition. Emperors such as Kangxi and Qianlong expand the empire's borders, enforce stability, and patronize culture. The population grows. Cities flourish. Trade and agriculture reach new heights. Yet European powers arrive, bringing ships, cannon, and a desire for influence. Opium wars, unequal treaties, and internal rebellions shake the foundations of the Qing, signaling the decline of imperial China. The dynasty struggles to modernize while maintaining tradition, a tension that ultimately proves insurmountable. By the 19th and early 20th centuries, the world has changed around China. Industrialization sweeps through Europe and Japan. Railroads, steamships, and telegraphs become symbols of power. China, long the Middle Kingdom, faces pressure both externally and internally. Revolutionary ideas circulate. Reformers argue for a republic. Nationalists, reformists, and intellectuals debate the future. Sun Yat-sen emerges as a revolutionary figure, dreaming of a modern China freed from imperial constraints. Cities like Shanghai and Beijing become epicenters of activism, learning, and unrest. The Qing dynasty finally collapses in 1911, and the Republic of China is born. But unity is fleeting. Warlords control regions, foreign powers carve concessions, and civil conflict becomes inevitable. Ideological struggles between the nationalists and communists intensify. Rural peasants endure hardship. Urban populations swell with the unemployed, the educated, and the disillusioned. In the chaos, a young revolutionary named Mao Zedong rises, learning strategy, patience, and leadership amid the mountains of Jiangxi and the villages of Hunan. His vision is clear: a new China must emerge, built on the principles of revolution, discipline, and peasant power. By the 1930s and 1940s, foreign invasion further destabilizes the nation. The Japanese occupation brings unimaginable suffering. Cities burn. Civilians flee. Resistance grows. Guerrilla warfare scars the countryside, and leaders like Mao solidify their networks. The Long March becomes legend, a story of survival, determination, and endurance that will shape the narrative of modern China for generations to come. Soldiers march across mountains, rivers, and forests, facing hunger, disease, and enemy attacks. Yet their loyalty remains unbroken, and the Communist Party grows in both numbers and influence, preparing for the battles that will define China's destiny. The nation that had endured centuries of dynastic rise and fall now faced a different kind of conflict, one born from ideology rather than conquest. The Chinese Civil War raged across the countryside and cities alike, nationalists clashing with communists, each side believing it embodied the true vision of China's future. Soldiers marched along dusty roads, banners waving in the sun, while peasants and civilians watched anxiously, uncertain of what each new day might bring. Amid this chaos, Mao Zedong emerges not just as a strategist, but as a symbol of endurance, guiding his forces with patience, cunning, and an unwavering sense of purpose. In 1949, the struggle reaches its climax. On October 1, in a moment witnessed by millions in the heart of Beijing, Mao Zedong proclaims the founding of the People's Republic of China. The city is alive with the sound of drums, the rustle of banners, and the voices of citizens celebrating the dawn of a new era. Yet the promise of unity belies the monumental challenges ahead: a country devastated by war, infrastructure in ruins, millions displaced, and the population yearning for stability, food, and hope. The early years of the People's Republic are characterized by an unrelenting drive to reshape the nation. Land reform transforms the countryside. Feudal landlords are removed from power, their lands redistributed to peasants. New schools open, literacy campaigns spread across villages, and the central government consolidates authority. Cities begin to rebuild, factories reopen, and roads connect regions previously isolated by geography or conflict. Mao's vision of a strong, self-reliant China guides every policy, every campaign, every speech delivered with deliberate cadence to inspire a nation. Yet the ambitions of one man and one party soon collide with reality. The Great Leap Forward, designed to rapidly industrialize China and surpass Western powers, brings with it unforeseen catastrophe. Communes form across the countryside, backyard furnaces are built to produce steel, and the state demands output far beyond the limits of human labor and natural resources. Crops fail. Famine spreads. Millions suffer in silence. Villages are emptied, homes abandoned, and the echoes of starvation travel through the mountains and rivers. The ambition to transform the nation clashes tragically with the limits of nature, revealing both the strength and vulnerability of centralized power. Undeterred, Mao pursues his vision of cultural and ideological transformation through the Cultural Revolution. Red Guards march through streets, waving little red books, and challenging anyone deemed opposed to the new revolutionary values. Schools are closed, traditions are questioned, and intellectuals face scrutiny and persecution. Statues are toppled, ancient temples desecrated, and centuries of heritage are challenged in the name of progress. Amid the chaos, the resilience of ordinary citizens and local communities preserves fragments of history, culture, and knowledge that will later help rebuild the nation. Mao's death in 1976 marks the end of one era and the beginning of another. The nation, exhausted by decades of upheaval, slowly turns to a new generation of leaders, most notably Deng Xiaoping. Unlike his predecessor, Deng focuses on pragmatism over ideology, guiding China toward modernization, economic reform, and opening to the global market. Special economic zones emerge along the coast, cities grow at unprecedented rates, and factories hum with production. Deng's policies unleash creativity, entrepreneurship, and opportunity while maintaining the central authority of the state. The country, once isolated, begins reconnecting with the world. As China enters the 21st century, urban skylines transform dramatically. Shanghai, Beijing, Shenzhen, all rise like steel forests, adorned with glass towers reflecting ambition and innovation. Rail networks, airports, and ports expand. Technology accelerates growth. Millions migrate from rural areas to bustling cities, seeking education, employment, and a better life. Social structures shift, traditional values adapt, and the global stage watches as China becomes an economic powerhouse, a nation that has emerged from centuries of dynastic cycles, foreign incursions, revolutions, and reforms, yet the journey of China is far from simple. Alongside economic success, the country faces challenges of inequality, environmental pressures, and political complexity. Every policy is debated internally, every decision carries weight beyond borders. The history of China, from the earliest settlements along the Yellow River to the skyscrapers of modern megacities, is a testament to the resilience, creativity, and adaptability of its people. Today, the story continues in every classroom, every village, every bustling city square. The legacies of emperors, philosophers, revolutionaries, and leaders are embedded in the architecture, literature, and collective memory of the nation. Citizens remember the wisdom of Confucius, the campaigns of Qin Shi Huang, the poetry of the Tang, and the vision of modern reformers. From the Great Wall that winds across mountains to the technological hubs that pulse with electricity, the past and future of China intertwine seamlessly. China stands now as a complex, dynamic civilization. Its people carry forward traditions of discipline, family loyalty, scholarship, and innovation. Its history is not merely a record of rulers or dynasties, but a living continuum, a story shaped by rivers and mountains, by wars and peace, by hardship and triumph, by vision and resilience. It is a civilization that has endured millennia and continues to evolve, reminding the world that the heart of China beats with both memory and ambition. From the mythic beginnings along the Yellow River, through the rise and fall of dynasties, through foreign invasions and revolutions, to the modern era of global influence, the history of China is a tapestry woven from struggle, wisdom, creativity, and endurance. Every brick of the Great Wall, every stroke of calligraphy, every step along the Silk Road, every voice of revolution contributes to the extraordinary narrative of a civilization that has never ceased to redefine itself, and so, the story continues, unbroken, alive, and ever-evolving. China, ancient and modern, remains a testament to humanity's capacity for endurance, innovation, and transformation. The journey that began with a few families by the Yellow River has become a nation of over 1 billion people, whose influence, history, and culture resonate across the world, and whose story is still being written, day by day, generation by generation. The legacy of China is not only in its monuments, its inventions, or its political structures, but in the indomitable spirit of its people, who have survived floods, wars, dynastic collapse, invasions, and revolutions, yet continue to build, create, and imagine. This is a history not frozen in time, but alive, a narrative as vast and enduring as the land itself, as flowing and resilient as the rivers that have shaped it. China's journey from ancient villages to modern megacities is a story of ambition, struggle, and triumph, a story of civilization that has endured, adapted, and thrived for over 5,000 years. And it is a story that will continue to unfold, carrying the past into the future, forever shaping the destiny of a nation and the world.